Good evening, everyone, and thank you for your patience. I know that we are running late. So, I'm going to speak today predominantly, although this is kind of tech, but I'm going to keep myself in the shoes of the user and speak from that perspective. That if I were a user, then what is it that I see in in the inclusivity part of banking in India, and what have been my observations as well, interacting with other users. So before that, I think all of us have uh, the time of growing up. We have heard this Athithi, Devo, Bhava. This is in Sanskrit, but essentially the meaning of that is guests are divine, and treating the guests well is like treating the divine. Let's stop for a moment and see what does it mean in business, right? Whether it is a physical store or it is a digital medium, digital channel, getting the customers to the doorstep isn't enough to really make them feel welcome. And I have used this analogy. I'm sure most of us have probably read this during our growing up days, a story from Panchatantra about this fox and the stork. The fox invited the stork home, and you can see that it served the meal in a flat bowl. While the fox was able to finish it very easily, the stork struggled. So that's what I really wanted to mean here when I said getting the customers to the doorstep isn't enough. Inviting them is just not enough. It is about how do we make them feel the entire experience with us in our business when they are already there with us. Now, let's take the same analogy to the banking world and derive what are the great things that are being done to ensure customer delight in in a physical banking world. So there is in-branch banking where customers can go and meet relationship managers. There are designated people for different stuff that they can get done. And if the customers want to speak in any specific language, in most branches, there are people available who can speak local language as well, apart from English. That happens. And I can give you my example. So I have account with Citibank, and whenever I have the need to go to the branch here in Bangalore, I have always spoken in English. Now I'm from Bhubaneswar. My native place is Bhubaneswar. Whenever I have had the need to go to the branch, a Citibank branch in Bhubaneswar, I have always felt like speaking in Odia, and that is what I have done, and I have seen those people reciprocating very well. So that personal connection, that personal touch goes a long way in building the trust with the business that we are talking about, because these are all very personalized services. Now, what happens in digital? Let's take some of the real world example and see, right? Now, Aadhaar, it is ironical that on one hand we say that we want more than 1 billion Indians to have Aadhaar. Yet, when we sent out all the messages that went out for linking PAN card to Aadhaar, they were all in English. I have not seen a single message coming in a language that is not English. And the people who can be targeted at max is probably 10% of the entire base that India is planning to link through Aadhaar. Second example was during demonetization. All the demonetization forms were available in English, right? And innumerable instances, I think we would have experienced in ATMs where strangers are willing to share their ATM PIN, stating that, can you please tell me what is my account balance? Can you please help me with my cash withdrawal? risking the fraud that can happen in their account. It's a clear security threat. Now, what does it all do? All these examples that I gave you, and the users who go through these kind of experiences day in and day out, where the interface is only in English, what happens to their psyche? Now, they have almost resigned to the fact that digital services are exclusive and meant only for English speaking people. Then many a times interacting with these kind of people, so when I ask them that, are you literate? आप पढ़े लिखे हैं क्या? The answer that I get is मैं पढ़ा लिखा नहीं हूँ. But when you probe them further, you know that they are absolutely literate. But it's just that they are literate in their own languages. They can read, they can write, they can do everything. And on digital, just because everything is done in English, mentally they think that they are not padha likha just because they don't know English. And what happens eventually is there is lack of trust in the digital channels because these users just don't feel inclusive. Now, what needs to be done to be able to arrive at what needs to be done to solve this problem? Let's look at what are the primary business objectives that any business wants to achieve. And these are just timeless business objectives. There is no rocket science in that. Any business, they would like to increase their profitability, improve revenue and return on investment, reduce cost, improve customer delight and experience. One or more combination of these business objectives are really the priorities of any business. Now, eventually what it matters is that customer delight is at the heart of any business that we do. And the more retained and delighted the customers feel, they themselves are going to bring more customers for us through referrals. Now, let's talk about what is missing in digital channels and how those problems could be solved. Digital channels need to move from assisted banking to self-reliant banking. I will give you an example taking into account my own net banking screenshot, right? So you can see this. Now, these are all on the left-hand side. You see, these are all the menu. These are all the things that I can do for banking. And then there are other, what we term as upsell opportunities for the bank, like credit card, personal loan, home loan, insurance, and probably demat account as well, right? But my core connection with the bank is fundamental, which is what you see on the left-hand side. That's why I have a relationship with the bank in the first place. The experience which is there here in my banking is what will determine if I'm even considering looking at all the upsell opportunities. Now, what does it do? When I have all of these things, which I can do all by myself, I feel that I'm an empowered customer. And what happens to the customers who see this interface but they don't understand? They can't navigate, they cannot use it, they cannot access any information that is even there to help them through do it yourself, right? So they look for assistance. They will look for somebody in their friend circle or family who can help them through this entire process. So by design, we are not making them self-reliant, we are making them depend on somebody. So that's assisted banking, even if it is digital, meant to be do it yourself. The things that need to be addressed are very simple, and it is no different for what banks do for English language customers. For customer acquisition, whatever is done for acquiring English users for banking, like campaigns, advertisement, any kind of communication, right? The entire acquisition process could also be in local languages. Now, once we have the customers on board, right, like I have here on this particular screen, now my entire engagement experience, engagement and retention can also be in my language. As easy and as seamless as we right now see on the screen for English language. And then, of course, if the trust is built through this, we will have upsell opportunities. So if a customer is loving the banking experience, there is no reason why the customer won't go into any of these sections like credit card, personal loans, home loan, insurance, DMAT, those kind of stuff. So the crucial thing is really that we move from assisted to self-reliant for the users who don't understand English. Because continuing to have English only do it yourself will have trust issues where these users will continue to depend on assisted models. Now, day in and day out, we read about the frauds that happen through digital channels. Now, I would assume that majority of the frauds are because of lack of awareness. People like us who are aware, who are savvy, right? And again, who depend on English as a language to get all our information. We are less vulnerable to these kind of online frauds. But the people who have banking relationships, but they do not have adequate information, they are not aware, because of the barriers which are there, they are the most vulnerable ones. And they are invariably the ones who fall prey to it. So I will take this pandemic also as an example where it has clearly demonstrated that the acceleration to digital ecosystem is there, and it cannot be only English to be able to enable this entire digital ecosystem for majority of Indians. At the beginning of this pandemic, there was an initiative where information, credible information, awareness needed to reach out to nook and corner of this country about what are the safety or precautionary measures they can take against this virus. Now, we have worked with government, we have worked with several organizations to ensure that both through text as well as through voice, that this message actually reaches in their languages. We have seen that everybody at that point in time unanimously agreed that English is not the medium through which we can create the awareness. It has to be in local languages. Then how can that be different for banking or for that matter, any other business that is trying to reach out to the same audience? Now, the approach that Reverie has taken is very simple. The experience that we are having, the customers are having in the physical world, can that be replicated? That means, can the entire gamut of experience, banking experience, be in their language? Whether it is customer acquisition, whether it is your internet banking, your mobile banking, any kind of customer support, including your call centers, then any kind of customer communication like SMS alert, email communication, statements, all of those, that entire gamut of digital banking for any customer, everything that the user is able to do in English today, can they do in their local languages? So that's where we have every single aspect addressed through our technologies, both through multiple channels. So text, of course, is there. Then voice, video localization, right? So video localization is a very powerful medium if you are talking about reaching out, creating awareness campaigns and advertisements, all of those kind of stuff. And then, of course, your internet and mobile banking localization. Voice plays a very important role when we are talking about customer support. And many of these things can also be done for fraud detection as well, including using AI. And we also have a product, Anuvadak, that helps publish websites in multiple languages without much of technical intervention. Our intention is that every single Indian in India is able to use the internet as easily in their languages as English language users are able to use that. That's where the trust with the end users will be built, and we reach out to these end users through our valued customers, and some of them are in the banking and financial space as well. And we are more than happy to have to be working with you, and we are more than happy to share how we have approached the customer journey in local languages and what are the solutions that we can provide. So that's all I have on the presentation. If there are any questions, then I'll be glad to answer those.